This is a clip from the Red Cow Arcade podcast.
So you saw Thor last time, I saw Thor this time. And this is the way I want to frame this conversation. I saw Thor this week, and I saw Robert Eggers' Northman this week, which you also saw.
Yes.
And for, obviously, Alexander Skarsgård in The Northman plays a Viking warrior out for revenge and blood who intends to die by the sword and go to the halls of Valhalla.
Right.
And I'm like, this is... And Alexander Skarsgård totally could have played Thor, like had Chris Hemsworth not come along. I mean, I wonder if even back then, if he was on the short list or something. Cause
yeah, it might have been an alternate universe where he did.
Yeah. I mean, like, when I found out, like, oh, of course he's going to play like an Eric the Red type character, who else would you get? He's literally the only person in Hollywood.
Yeah. Skarsgård. Come on.
We literally have a Viking on our hands. Maybe one thing that would have been cool if they really wanted to like impress me is get Brock Lesnar to play one of them.
One of them.
Just, some crazy bitch. I think it's fair for anybody to say that Thor Love and Thunder is a miss. It's like there's clearly tonal problems with it. I've been doing a little bit of a deep dive listening to Taika, trying to understand what the hell happened. It really does sound like he went on like a Judd Apatow-esque approach to this, where he openly says, yeah, I really don't like pay attention to what the previous movies did. I'm too lazy to do that. I kind of just want to do my own thing, and I'll let Kevin Feige tell me if it's conflicting with anything that I'm already doing.
It's like when he was talking about Star Wars. That's why you kind of want to like go to like a different like timeline or time period, because he's like, I can't watch these movies. I can't research it. I can't do anything. Yeah. I am too busy. Like he's James Rolfe or something.
Yeah, I'm like, hire me for all your projects, but I'm too busy. And then he's like, no, the only thing I can be fucked to do is show up to set and improvise with my buddies and the people with whom I'm having threesomes. And I really did, we've been joking about like, because he was making tabloids a year ago where he and Tressa Thompson and his girlfriend are having a threesome, and there's like these like weird candid photos of them all making out in like a dugout or something. Yeah. And, Vanity Fair had one of those videos where he and the actress, so Tressa Thompson, they like go through Tessa. I keep saying Tressa. They go through like a scene and use a marker and stuff, and he like can't be fucked to do it. He just wants to joke around. He doesn't want to give you any interesting insights about what he was thinking on that day. She's trying. He's standing really, really close to her and being super flirty with her, and all I can think, and she's being receptive to it. So it's not. It's only creepy for us.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was creepy for her. It didn't feel like it was. And all I can think is like, yeah, is he like, do we have a major ego problem on our hands with this guy? Because he made some really killer movies. Jojo Rabbit, Thor Ragnarok, and What We Do in the Shadows are all winners,
I think his ego like inflated past the point where I think it's gone to him. It's gone to him, and he thinks he could just throw in as many jokes as he can, put Korg in as much of the screen time as he can.
And didn't it feel to you like it was shot like in that kind of prequels-esque way with the reverse shot? I think they shot a lot of it on the volume, actually, the dreaded volume, which is starting to really cause problems for these projects.
Yeah, it definitely looked very green screeny. I don't know if it was volume or not, but it felt claustrophobic in that way. That happens.
That's what sticks in my mind when I think of the movie. I think of these kind of awkwardly staged scenes with bad blocking, or like with like static blocking. He kept saying, he's like, yeah, so I made an 8-hour version of it where all we did was joke around, and then I took 14 months to shape it and make it into something that makes sense. I'm like, I don't think you accomplished that, actually. I don't think the 2-hour version makes a lot more sense than that's no way to make that may be a way to make a Christopher Guest film or What We Do in the Shadows, but that's no way to make a Thor film.
Yeah, like I was saying, it felt a little bit like Calvin Ball, where they're making up the rules while you go along, which I don't think really works for Marvel movies. You kind of need those like stakes. You need like the rule. Like you need to know what Iron Man can do, what Thor can do, because he was just like giving his powers to children randomly. There was like a wish making thing that breaks all of the like previous movies.
Yeah, like why does Mjolnir make her healthy and then why does it make her sick? Like, you know, it's those are the rules, I guess.
Yeah, it need to be. Yeah, it felt a little bit too like wishy-washy all the time, and
there were people that were like, yeah, and you know, sometimes it was really, really depressing and really serious, like with the cancer and with gore, and then other times it was too jokey, and I was like, yeah, that's true. He obviously wasn't like managed, you know, because if you decide like I'm gonna go ahead and have like a cancer death in my film, spoilers, then the rest of it should
need a really funny cancer death in it.
Yeah. Or like I'm literally going to open the film with a child starving to death, you know. But I will say this, and this is even more to his fault. It's not like I was like 1 minute I'm crying, 1 minute I'm being told to laugh. Like I'm not feeling the emotion even from the depressing scenes because Christian Bale is acting his ass off to like a child who's like, it's Chris Hemsworth's kid who like, she's no actress and she's just sitting there staring at Christian Bale and he's acting his ass off at her. So like, I'm not feeling anything. And in the very next scene, he's talking to like that, like very comedic god that looked like She-Hulk, you know, like that's that janky CG where they made him tall.
Yeah. That was weird. Yeah. I feel like Christian Bale was squandered in this movie as well. Speaking of squandered villains.
he was a lot. And so you'd have to put him in a movie that required a lot. And this movie didn't require anything.
Yeah. For a god butcher, he didn't butcher many gods either. even like Natalie Portman dying or whatever. I was like, it's just hot Natalie Portman with makeup. Like it doesn't look to me like, oh my God, she's dying of cancer. Like it didn't come home for me or anything. No.
So it didn't feel like there was any passion behind this. The whole thing felt pretty soulless. Now, that's not to say that I sat there angry at it like I think some people did. My wife, for instance, sat there angry at it the whole time. She was like, I can't believe this is what I'm out here doing on like a date night.
Yeah. I liked enough about it. I just felt it was tedious. It was just like with so many jokes and so many things happening, I definitely was checking my watch.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I guess it's like, so then the question is, how bad of an experience is it to just sit there eating crackers? You know, because that's what it felt like to me. It was like, there's just nothing here. But I also was, I was offended. I was offended by it on some level, but not quite on the same level as like, I do find like Kenobi to be pretty offensive. And like, I wasn't offended. And now this is where we really depart. I found Doctor Strange 2 to be really offensive to the audience who came here to see a story.
I disagree because I was having a good time. Like it was just a ride for me in a way, and I was there for it. So if I'm like engrossed with it and I'm keeping up with the story, and it's like I liked some of the horror elements. I like some of the adventure to it. So there was things about it that kept me going with the movie, but with Thor: Love and Thunder, it's like it was just tedious. It kept bringing me out of the movie, and I was just like, ugh.
But at least Chris Hemsworth is pretty charismatic, and even if his jokes aren't funny, like I feel like he's kind of funny in essence. Whereas like there's nothing going on with Benedict for me.
I don't know. I think he's charming. I think
it may be an expectations thing. Normally I'm like no. Like I give the movie, I go in cold. Whatever the movie's wanting to accomplish, I try to receive that. But I'll admit, I went into Doctor Strange 2 being like, all right, this ought to be the convergence of Loki.
If you don't go in with that, I went in with nothing, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised, especially because, like I said, I was just like finishing up Moon Knight and Obi-Wan Kenobi and shit, and I was just like, or not, maybe not Obi-Wan at that time, but yeah, that it was just like my expectations were lower, I think. But I put it on for the Samsung review, and I was watching it, and I was enjoying myself. I don't know, there's some energy to it that brings me along. I don't know why.
Likewise, I think if I had gone, opening night to Thor, and I was expecting like a Taika Waititi excellence, thing and I got that, I would have been like, what the fuck? But I got 2 weeks of people telling me like, don't expect a lot. The jokes aren't funny, you know? And so I totally went in being like, all right, like, you know, let's lower our bar a lot. And so I thought it was pretty disappointing, but I wasn't as frustrated for, you know, because my expectations were set.
No. It was. I think if it was like funnier, it would just be a better experience. Like because, especially because I was in an audience and they were silent, and it's just like, why are we here? It's just like, why are we listening to all these jokes? Yeah. And why am I doing this lame story? Yeah, the cancer story, the wishes and gore, and it's like,
I for some reason, you know, and I don't know why. Yeah, Russell Crowe worked on me.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was really funny
when he called him baby cakes or whatever. And I like that he's just big and fat now. Like truly, yeah, there's a while he was kind of thick. I remember when he was in Les Mis. Remember, you know, and I make fun of him where he's like, "Out in the darkness." Like he just cannot sing. I mean, he's hitting the notes, but that's not a singing voice. But Nina and I actually really liked that Hugh Jackman Les Mis movie. And I remember we were watching the Oscars in 2012 or whatever, and they did, you know, One Day More, and they all came out and did the live performance at the Oscars. And he came out for his part, and he's one more day to revolution, we will nip it in the bud. And I remember Nina said, like, look at Russell Crowe, all fat and purposeful. And I always remember Russell Crowe, fat and purposeful. And now he's like truly just very overweight.
Yeah. No, he had I liked his little Greek accent. I liked it. It was funny.
Super funny. Yeah, so I could have spent more time with him, I guess. But all of the criticisms are totally valid, you know, and how come nobody dies in this fucking thing? But I was surprised that, like, yeah, Chris Hemsworth signed on for the whole film. I really didn't expect that for some. I thought that, you know what I thought was going to happen?
A bait and switch.
Once I heard that, like, oh no, it's his movie still, I still thought, I wasn't convinced. I was like, he's going to be in the whole thing, but he's going to die at the end for sure. And no, they did. You know what I actually thought was going to happen? I thought that Jane was going to be dying of cancer because I knew that was the comic book storyline. And that through some transfer of a fucking hammer or something, he was going to get cancer. I actually thought that. And because I heard people were saying, like, I cried at the end. I was like, does Thor get cancer at the end? And then she lives on. She's new Thor. He loves her. I totally thought that's what was going to happen. He's going to get out of the Marvel Cinematic Universe like he must want to.
It was Natalie who wanted out again.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's funny because, like, I thought that this was a passing of the torch thing, but I suppose that's the problem with choosing an older and very, very famous person to do that with is, like, you know, I guess they'll have to raise this new daughter, you know, Chris Hemsworth's daughter will be the new Thor. Yeah. And the whole thing with the Guardians not being in it, that's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. I thought they were done dirty. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I see the problem of, like, he's so much more powerful than all of them that, like, can you sustain a whole film where they're a team? But I don't know. I thought that was the tease at the end of Endgame. It was like, next time you see them, they're all going to be together. It's going to be great.
Yeah, you could do it. Come on.
He was riding around on a broom. You know, that was the moment where I texted you guys and was like, the fuck is going on?
But yeah, the Northman is good.
Holy shit, dude. Well, so the thing that sticks out in my mind about Thor is, wow, like there's very few planned shots or designed shots in this thing. It's like almost all coverage for comedy. And even though there was lots of comedy in Ragnarok, do you remember that Ragnarok had a lot of design shots? It had like, there was like him chasing after that giant like dragon thing. And there was like all that stuff with Hela. I also thought Hela was like a more threatening villain overall.
Right.
And a more interesting one. There was a lot of visual idea, you know, everything with Hulk and the fight with Hulk.
Planet Hulk stuff. Yeah.
When he, you know, what were you the god of again? And he becomes Thunder Thor and he, you know, attacks all those guys in slow motion. There's just a lot of good there's a lot of good filmmaking, which there was a lot less of that in this. There was the Mario Galaxy scene. That was about it. I thought it was kind of cool, I guess. The black and white Mario Galaxy thing.
Yeah.
But this fucking Robert Eggers, man. This dude, I was hearing Willem Dafoe talk about it. This dude doesn't shoot any coverage. This dude is like, no, I'm going to design this movie top to bottom.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell.
Like every shot is going to be because I wanted it that way. And he said something, that was, I thought really resonated, where he was like, I only work on projects I'm passionate about because there's no time in life to do anything else. And making a movie is hard enough. So he's like, if I'm doing it, it's because I really want to do it. I don't know. I was super impressed by this movie. I've heard from a few people who weren't crazy about it. I love The Witch. I didn't see The Lighthouse. You did, right?
Yeah, the Lighthouse is similar in that it's very visually pleasing. Like so many great shots in it. It's funny, but I think both these movies are way more straightforward than people like when they talk about them. They're like, oh, that's so trippy, it's so this, and then like I watch these movies, I'm like, these are so straightforward.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's allegorical, fanciful things happening, but I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory what they're like getting across.
Yeah, does it feel like it's a big obstacle to get into these movies? It doesn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, I don't think so. When people say that, like, oh, they're so trippy, like because The Lighthouse, people said that too, and it's wicked straightforward. Like it's two guys stranded who go like progressively mad because they ran out of food, but and this is just Hamlet basically.
Yeah. And he said as much. He said, he was like, I knew I wanted to indulge the language. I wanted to, go with this really kind of like operatic visual. And I knew that it might be, an obstacle for some people to get into some of that stuff. So I chose an intentionally simple plot, a story that, and I guess Skarsgård, he was looking to a project like this too, where he's like, let's do like a classic Viking story. They're all about revenge. They're all about family and internal family struggles. And he was saying, it's literally, it's the Viking story that was the source material for Hamlet and would go on to be Lion King. And so he's like, everybody knows this story. Brother kills king, son comes back for revenge. And he's like, so once we know that like the humanity of the story is going to be really accessible to everybody who speaks any language, then, you can indulge all this material stuff, which is and visual stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, I felt like maybe sometimes I was being a little bit too indulgent. Like there's some parts of like, okay, enough dudes screaming, huh? Bearded dudes screaming. But you got to admire this film. And the other thing that brought me out of it was Nicole Kidman, because she looks like she's got a fit like that face is very artificial.
That is a problem.
Medical California's medical wonder in that face.
That's definitely a problem. But you're right. Her performance was actually really on point. Like it was clear she did not phone it in. I don't think this director lets anybody phone it in. I think he's one of those directors. It's like, if you're showing up.
Yeah, she was just out of place, but she was phenomenally acted. So as soon as when you got into the scene, you're like, okay, great. But
who he reminds me of is the guy who did Hereditary and Midsummer. That director.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
These guys are willing to like go there.
Yeah, exactly. I would recommend Lighthouse too if you really enjoyed this. Maybe give it a few weeks so like you can
calm down from the screaming.
Calm down from the men screaming, because there's a little bit of that.
There was this one scene in The Northman where, I don't think it's spoilers, but in case you don't want to know anything about the movie, cover your ears or something. But so he intentionally is taken as a slave to get back into this little village where his evil uncle, is currently the king. And because he's a slave, Skarsgård, he's made to play like a weird kind of like rudimentary sport, with some like hard, dangerous ball.
Oh, right, yeah.
Where it's okay to, whatever. It's okay to kill each other. And the prince, this young prince who's, the uncle's new son, he decides to run out on the field. He gets real jazzed up and he runs out on the field and he almost very nearly gets himself killed. And Skarsgård takes a hold of the guy who almost kills him and he goes ham on him. He goes screamy Viking crazy on. And I was on the elliptical at the time, and I totally felt it. Like I felt
Wow.
like the heart, but like my own heart race, where I like, it clicked into my animal brain of like, don't you touch that child,
Wow, yeah.
let's like shake this person and kill them until they're no longer a threat to that child, It's just these are, I love movies that get under the skin like this, that get into the reptile brain, that. And I was thinking, I was like, I don't see a reason that a movie like this, had we gone along a different timeline, in film history where it wasn't about franchises and IPs, this would have been a blockbuster. It's visually insane. It's starring these huge names, these very sexy people, grand story.
I think the style might be a little too niche. Because I think even like I'm thinking of Braveheart. That was broad. It was a broad story with broad filmmaking sensibilities.
Yeah. Where the language was real dumbed down.
I mean, I would watch something like this. This is my kind of blockbuster. But I feel like it. I think there's a reason why the audience score is low, and I understand why it's low. But but I would like weird, screamy, sexy movies to be big budget like this. I would love
some of those visuals in the volcano at the end.
Yeah.
Like, my God. And I love that when it ended.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it told its story, and it was, everybody was just so in. And I love those design shots. I love that there's so little coverage. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, when you go and shoot a scene, you write a scene, you go and shoot it. And the prudent thing to do to make sure that you're safe when you're editing the film is you take sort of static or isolated shots of each person. So if EJ has dialogue, we take a one shot of EJ. We take a one shot of me so that I can
take like a medium shot sometimes and a wide.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you take a wide of the whole thing. So you have a safe wide that you can jump out to if you have to in the edit. And a design shot would be like, no, we're going to do this, this shot on rails that goes in and out. And like the whole movie is shot that way.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's got so much care to it. It's acted very well.
Yeah.
Everybody is so striking. Anna Taylor-Joy is just in this painting too, and it's crazy.
I like her a lot.
She's got an interesting look to her. She's not she's definitely pretty, but she's got kind of a serpentine thing going to her.
Yeah, she's beautiful, but she's also like a reptile. It's weird.
Oh yeah, it is weird to think about old blockbusters back in the day, because people would they try to make Powder a blockbuster, that weird movie. There used to be things other than franchises.
There was a movie that my dad rented when we were kids from the 60s called Papillon. Maybe it was the 70s. It starred Steve McQueen. It might have been late 60s. Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman, a young Dustin Hoffman. And it was about a guy who was serving, this massive jail sentence, and he breaks out, but he gets recaptured and he's put in solitary confinement. And then there's massive time jumps, and this is kind of a big epic, but also it's sort of intimate, and it's starring, Steve McQueen, big famous actor. And I think it was the kind of, it wasn't Star Wars. I'm sure it didn't make, $1 trillion at the time, but it was a big movie, like a Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah. There was actually room for that kind of stuff. Now that would just direct to Netflix.
I mean, hell, even exactly. Even Titanic,
yeah. Oh yeah, even
something like that, where it's look, it's a one-off. It's about an historical event, and it's starring sexy kids, and it's 3 hours, and it's got some state-of-the-art graphics in it, and I just kind of miss. It would be cool if there could be another big hit that's like a standalone thing,
Yeah, you don't need to have a Christopher Nolan behind it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Christopher Nolan and Tarantino are those directors are kind of the closest thing to their own franchises.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.